Hey everyone, and welcome to the Defining Your Life podcast, where we focus on living in our purpose, practicing presence, and activating our power in each moment. I'm Marsha Rell, your resident pep talk provider, and I invite you to join me as we continue to learn, lift each other up, and strive to level up together. Because we are never finished defining our lives, and it takes a village, so let's build one. Stay tuned for the episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to the pod. I hope that you had a lovely Thanksgiving holiday if you celebrate. And if not, I pray that you were still able to get some rest, maybe recuperate, had some time for self-care, or do something to fill your cup. Today, I have a special guest for our rapid fire feature, which we haven't done in quite some time. And so I would like to welcome Cambriae Winifred Lee to the pod. She is a wife, a mother, a creative, communications director in the nonprofit sector, and also my little sister. So welcome to the pod, Cam.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, we don't like to waste time around here. So if you could describe yourself in 30 seconds or less.
Well, I feel like you started that description for me a little bit with the intro, but I describe myself as a boy mom, a devoted wife, a creative, specifically a writer, and someone who believes that, God is my anchor and protector in a very frenzied world.
But do you want to elaborate on your thoughts around a frenzied world? I mean, I have my own thoughts, but would like to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I feel like the world is wild. It can be chaotic, but it can also be exciting. In all of the wild energy. And I feel like if you find your purpose and your joy in life, you can get re-energized from that kind of chaos in a way.
Okay, that's kind of a good segue into my next question around finding your purpose. I know that creativity is, one of the things that anchors you. And so how has creativity and the arts sort of shaped you as a person and helped you navigate this frenzied world?
Yeah, I feel like as a child, I was a very emotional child. Like even my mom just kind of raising her voice a little bit, I thought I was in trouble all the time, and I would kind of break into tears. And very sensitive and also introverted. And I feel like art and specifically writing has always been my outlet, my way to express myself, to process my emotions, and to just be confident in sharing my thoughts with others. It's been my way of expressing love to others. So anyone close to me, if they've been important in my life, I've probably written something for them or about them. I've always considered myself a better communicator when I could put my pen to paper. So my creative just has always been my way to process and to understand the world, and also to get curious about the world. A lot of times when I sit down to write, I like to research things first. So it's also just opened doors for me to find new information as well.
Yeah. That pen to paper for communicating emotions, feelings is definitely something that we share. I always describe myself as being transparent, but not necessarily vulnerable. And on paper, way more vulnerable than I am when speaking, but very interesting. With that in mind, do you believe that having a creative outlet is a luxury or more of a necessity for you?
So I'm going to speak in general terms. I think for everyone, being a creative is actually a necessity. And I say that because if you think of human beings in our simplest form, and just like as the apex predators of the world, you need that creativity. That creativity is what makes us that dominant species. Being able to create, ideate, imagine, get curious, is what sets us apart. So, like, if you were stranded in the woods, you're not just going to sit there. in order to survive, you're going to look around, you're going to see what you can build and make in order to survive and survival of the fittest. So I see that as like a part of being human. And I think it shows up in different ways depending on your environment and your circumstances. It will look different. And if you are someone who's privileged, yes, it may look a little more luxurious. But for people who aren't privileged, they're still using that creative and they still have to um, create to survive. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. We're all utilizing that creative mind and energy in order to survive, like literally.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a creative, now working in the nonprofit sector professionally, I imagine that your creative path looks a little bit different than what you may have initially imagined. So, how exactly are you utilizing your creative genius in your day to day, whether unexpectedly or intentionally?
When you say the phrase creative genius, it actually brings to mind this basically like personality evaluation that I had to do at my job called Working Genius. And it actually really resonated with me because um, basically you get two working geniuses. And this is where like you derive your energy and joy for your work. And mine was innovation and enablement. And those two paired together made me the adaptable designer. And so essentially, I like to create and I also like to create things based on the needs of others. And I think being in the nonprofit world has kept my attention for so many years and given me a level of joy because a lot of times in the nonprofit world, you have to wear many hats and you're short staffed. And I found myself in these positions where I'm constantly building and innovating. Like maybe I am the first marketing and communications person hired by an organization, and they need me to build out systems and structures and really be be the person that fosters that pillar of the organization and develops it. And so I think that building aspect of being in the nonprofit world and kind of using like bare bones resources to develop things has kept my attention and allowed me to use my creative juices. I also feel like, being in comms, there's just a nature to that is creative. I have to write a lot. I have to tell the story of the brand. I have to, think about how we can establish the organization as a thought leader in different spaces. And so, just constantly communicating my work is, even though I, can get into a flow and a routine with my work, looks new all the time.
Awesome. And so with that, it sounds like you do have the ability to really tap into that creative side. It's an integral part of your position. Do you feel like the work in and of itself fills your cup in that way, or do you still feel a pull for externally creating something independently?
Yeah, I definitely think my cup is partially full because I am exercising those creative muscles, whether I'm writing an op-ed or writing stories for an annual report or, developing message frameworks and things like that for my organization. But there is that little piece that is still missing where I want to tell the stories that I think are valuable and that move me and that trigger me emotionally. And there's a level of, wanting to share just my thoughts in the world and my my own creativity, just like rooted in that, just rooted in my spirit with others. And so I still want to do my own projects. And I don't think I'll be completely fulfilled until I kind of check off some of those goals from my own bucket list.
And so what's stopping you from doing that?
I think, at a point in life, I was very deep in my creative, just in my creative bag. I was I was young. I used to do spoken word poetry. I used to compete and do spoken word poetry. I wrote plays when I was young, but I just never took my creativity to a professional level. And then once I started working full time, I met my husband. We started our family, and my focus has really been on building that pillar of my life. And I've dedicated so much energy to that, I'm only in my early 30s. So I went from college, being deep into my own creative projects, to then the professional world, and then being a mother and a wife. And so that has stopped me a little bit. I wouldn't say stop, but I pivoted and put my focus in a different bucket. But there's so much life left to live. And I know that now that, my children are going from infant age to toddler age, preschool, I'll be able to refocus that attention on myself, and I'll be able to revisit some projects that I, push the pause button on.
Yeah, no, that definitely, the motherhood, partnering stage, or is can be, an adjustment period, right? Especially when you're raising a young family. And so with that in mind, as a wife and mother to two young children, what's one piece of advice that you would give to young women who maybe are creative, but are embarking on the same journey as far as like being able to juggle and balance or find their way?
Yeah, I kind of have two pieces. One, be in lockstep with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is easier if the two of you agree that this is the period of life that you want to be living in right now.
Mm-hmm.
As well as, being communicative and agreeing on just like your day to day and how you want that life to look, what routines you want to set, what boundaries you want to set. If you're in agreement, then it actually doesn't feel as much of a heavy load. It actually feels joyous. And I think that's one thing good about my life right now. Like, my husband and I, we decided like we want to have kids and we want to focus on our kids right now. And if that is maybe 5 to 7 years of just like not traveling as much, not
Mm-hmm.
doing X, Y, and Z, then that's just what it is. But it's just a small portion of life. It's just a moment in your continuum. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like being in that mindset has made the experience like so much more joyful. And I think like we look at each other and we're like, we're just so happy. Like, our children are our greatest blessing. And yes,
Yeah.
it is a job, but it doesn't feel as much like a job when you want to do that job.
Yes.
So just be ready and be in the mindset for it. So that's like the piece of advice I would give. So be in lockstep, and then like be in that mindset and be ready. Don't feel like, oh, I wish I would have done this or done this. No,
Yeah.
like tell yourself, this is the period I'm in. This is the period I'm living in, and I'm going to be present in that period.
Yes. Yes. Being present and not focusing on what was in the past or what you desire to do in the future. Absolutely. Yes. As more of a spirit of contentment, right? Because you
Yes.
can't have the things without doing the work for the things. And a
Mm-hmm.
family is work. That all work is not a negative, right? I feel like sometimes the word work has a negative connotation to it, but anything that we're doing, whether we're creating, whether we're working on our family, it's all work, but you can have joy and fulfillment in that work. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a great way to end our conversation, Cam. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's always nice to have a loved one or a friend on with me. And I can't wait to see what other things you're going to do in the creative realm as you transition from seasons to season. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
And on that note, allow me to leave you with a quote from Faith Ringgold today. You can't sit around and wait for somebody to say who you are. You need to write it and paint it and do it. Thanks so much for listening today. If what you have been hearing has been beneficial, please do not forget to rate, review, share, and subscribe to the pod. Reach out via DM, email, on IG, on TikTok, all the places. I can't wait to chat with you all again next week. Take care until then.